A boy named Max comes on the scene as the movie starts. He lost his family in an untoward incident, so he is surviving alone on this wasteland. Max observes some vehicles are coming towards him, then Max gets in his car and run it at full speed, but after a distance they capture him. Actually, it was the army of a brutal man named Immortan Joe. World becomes a desert wasteland following a societal collapse from warfare over resources. But Immortan Joe has all the facilities as food, water and fuel, and the whole administration was being regulated by Immortan Joe. Joe and his army were suffering from such a disease in which blood was required after an interval. When they bring Max as a prisoner, they state on his back that he is a universal blood donor because his blood group was O negative. Max tries to flee from this place but he again gets caught. Then we see Joe. He had masked his mouth for breathing, because Joe's lungs were damaged, and for a while, he releases the water and the people gets crowded to take it. Then a lady named Furiosa is seen. In fact she was the daughter of Joe, and she was also the lieutenant of Joe's army. Furiosa is visiting his nearby area for a deal. Furiosa is driving a vehicle named War Rig while her army was following her. Furiosa suddenly changes his track of driving and does not move to their planned place. Joe also notices that Furiosa has changed her direction. Then he moves to a cabin where was written a statement on the floor that, "Your children will not hold the seat of warlord." Actually Joe had 4 wives and he wanted to extend his generation, but Furiosa is driving away while taking Joe's wives. Afterwards Joe alerts his army. Because Joe had realized that Furiosa has started to revolt, Joe's army was ready to sacrifice their life for him. But here we see a young follower of Joe named Nux. He was also infected with that disease. Here it is observed that Max's blood was supplying into Nux's body. After it Joe's army leaves to capture Furiosa and to also save Joe's wives. We see that Nux also takes Max with him. He tied him to the vehicle. War was the only purpose of their life. They used to celebrate the battle. One more tribe attacks Furiosa when she is moving towards her destination. All tribes had their own pursuit for this war. This tribe wanted to battle for Furiosa's War Rig, because it contains fuel. Nux reaches Furiosa while driving his vehicle speedily, but a huge sandstorm is directing towards them. They both enters in the storm, and Nux's vehicles got crashed. After the departure of sandstorm, Max had restored his senses, but he was also tied with Nux. Lifting up Nux he moves forward. Max observes the War Rig of Furiosa. Going near he sees the wives of Joe, and one of them was pregnant. Max points his gun on them. First of all Max asks them for water. Those girls hand him over the water pipe. Then he asks a cutter to cut the chain with which he was tied. Suddenly Furiosa notices, Joe's army was coming nearer to them, and neighbor tribes are also with them. Witnessing it, Furiosa attacks Max. Max confronts Furiosa and hits her. Meantime, Nux also attacks Furiosa coming into senses. After it Nux cuts the chain that attached to Max. Max tries to drive away Furiosa's War Rig, but that War Rig is stopped while covering a little distance. Actually, Furiosa had set a security code in her War Rig, and Furiosa was only one who knew the code. Furiosa revealed the whole story of it to Max. Here Max says, "I will only take you with me, because Joe is pursuing them because of his wives, and Joe will stop pursuing them after getting his wives." But Furiosa says, "Please also bring these girls with me, because I am going to a safe place where a better life is possible." Agreeing with Furiosa, Max also takes Joe's wives with him. But Joe's army was still chasing them. Suddenly a problem is generated in War Rig, so Max repairs it while coming outside, and Max also removes that iron face mask. It is noticed that Nux had also got in the War Rig, and he attacked Furiosa, but Joe's wives immediately catch up Nux. Here Furiosa wants to kill Nux, but Joe's wives suggest her, "Don't kill him, he is doing this as being a subordinate of Joe." So Furiosa throws him down from the truck. After a little interval, they arrives on the way of mountain. Furiosa hides Max and Joe's wives, because the tribe living here is very cruel as Joe's tribe. Furiosa had a deal to bring fuel for them. In return, they will let Furiosa pass the way safely. Suddenly Joe's army also arrives there. To stop them, tribesmen explode the entry gate of mountain, so the road may block for Joe and his army. But these tribesmen also show their anger to Furiosa, because Joe's army reached their residence because of her. They were driving away in war rig, while the tribesmen trying to stop them. Now the way of entrance had been blocked for Joe. Joe and his army are trying to move further through the blocked path. Nux witnesses Joe there and also joins him in his army. While bikers were chasing Furiosa and her companions to capture them, those bikers attempt to set the war rig on fire. But Furiosa and Max bravely confront them. Joe is going to fire his gun on Furiosa, moving near the war rig. Then that pregnant lady appears before him. Joe lets her go because she was going to be the mother of his kid. Nux struggles to move into the war rig, but he fails. Giant Man attacks them, using a thrower which hits directly on the steering of war rig. But that pregnant lady cuts that chain with a cutter. Now the war rig was again under the control of Max. But accidentally that pregnant lady falls down. Seeing her, Joe loses his control over vehicle. While Furiosa and her companions drive forward, one of Joe's wife comes back and witnesses Nux there. Nux was disappointed because he done nothing profitable for Joe. She explains to him that don't be sad, you can come with us. Now Nux decides to help Joe's wives. Furiosa reveals her purpose to Max. She tells being a child, I used to live in Meadow with my family. Then Joe attacks there and he took Furiosa with him, and make his so-called daughter. She tells, I want to return to my family, so I may live like a human, because the peoples in Wasteland lives like slaves. Then they passes through a marsh place where War Rig got entrapped. On the other side, Joe's army was still pursuing them. The pregnant wife of Joe was no more, and the baby inside her was also dead. Joe loses his temper at the loss of his baby. Max was trying to free War Rig but of no avail. They noticed that Joe was close to them, so Max targets them with his sniper gun, but he misses. Then Furiosa targets them. As a result, Joe's companion's eyes are spoiled and he got blind. But Joe's companion does not stop, but also increases his speed while firing his gun. They struggle hard to bring the War Rig out of the marshy place. After succeeding, they drive further. They reach a place where a lady was shouting from a tall tower. Max says it was a trap. In spite of this, Furiosa gets off. Some of the bikers also reach there. Here it is revealed that the lady calling for help was actually the mother of Furiosa. There was also another old woman who had some seeds. These were the seeds of vegetables and fruits which were the last ones in the world. But they had no land to sow these seeds. Furiosa had come here with a hope that it is the place of Meadow, but she was dejected seeing the barren land. Furiosa's mother tells her, actually that marshy place from where you came, was the land where we had to sow the seeds, but that land has also turned barren. They decide at night they will take the ladies and seeds to a place where there is a chance of survival, so they agree because of having no option. Max was also about to start his own new journey. In the coming morning, they departs to their ways. But Max begins to visualize his family members, who were wanting to say, help Furiosa and her companions. Then Max changes his plan, and he drives his bike back to them. Max explains to Furiosa, if you want to start your new life, you may return to that place from where you have come, but there was a threat for them in the form of Joe. But Furiosa trusts on Max, so she agrees. She takes that way from where she had come. Joe again starts to chase them after knowing that Furiosa and her fellows are returning back. The war breaks out among them, and many members of both died in this. Getting a chance, Furiosa tries to pull Joe's mouth mask. That mask was fixed with his face. When it got removed, his face looks more horrific and Joe also died on the spot. Then Nux sacrifices his life by exploding his vehicle. Meanwhile, Furiosa is also fatally wounded, but she had reached her region now. Knowing that Joe is dead, his army and people there got excited, and they accept Furiosa as their new commander. They bring her upward. Here Max sets out to his destination. Last time Max and Furiosa sees each other, we believe that Furiosa will become a good commander and she'll fix everything. Here the movie ends. I hope that you liked the video. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.